Thanks for coming in today. Today we're talking about advanced email marketing strategies. But before we get started, we have a really quick poll for everyone. If you can take a few seconds and answer the poll for us, it'll be terrific. Where are you joining us from today? If you can let us know, that would be wonderful. I know we have registrations from all over the world. The second question is, what do you hope to gain from attending this webinar? If you can select one of the different drop-down choices. And then lastly, how would you rate your current proficiency in AI-powered email marketing? How much do you know about what's going on in AI-powered email marketing? What are some of the latest technologies? Are they being used? And what's in the horizon coming out in the near future? And then lastly, what is the size of your email list? Roughly, we have it broken down in different increments. What is the size of your email list that you're actively using? So if you guys could answer that, that'll be great. Okay. Give a couple more seconds for everyone to answer. Thank you, guys. So let's get started on the webinar. So amazing. So let me just recap really quick. We have people joining us from all over the world. It's fantastic to see. It looks like 70% of you want practical tips for immediate implementation. So we'll make sure we cover that. Particularly, we'll even do a demo that showcases how you can use your current content and be able to create different emails and improve your overall open rates and click-through rates. And then a bunch of you are beginner in AI-powered email. So I'll make sure when we're reviewing that part that we go a little bit slow, and some of you are intermediate and a small percentage are advanced. And the different list sizes across the board. So we'll make sure we provide different strategies for the different list sizes. Thank you everyone for answering. So a little bit about me. I'm Hamlet Azarian. I'm a lifelong learner. I've been doing growth marketing for a little over a decade. I'm constantly always looking for the latest technologies, the latest hacks, and how we can implement those to improve our overall marketing, as well as our ability to be able to communicate. So I'm constantly seeking and trying and experimenting, failing a lot, and in the process of learning some exciting things. And the Growth Lab webinar series is really about that. Some of the latest things I'm playing with, some of the things that I'm trying, or some of the items that we're trying to implement within our agency. So a little bit about us. We have a growth agency. That's the first and foremost thing we do. We work with different high growth companies. We develop go-to-market strategies for them. We build teams, and the teams come in and execute quickly and drive different strategies for scale. We also have our Growth Ventures podcast, which is our bi-weekly podcast where we're interviewing different growth leaders, talking about their journey, their experience, and the lessons they've learned from the experiments that they run and how they've been able to scale and grow their businesses. We have our Growth Lab, which is what you're at here today, which is our monthly webinar series that we talked about the different topics. Today's is obviously email, but we've done things such as paid ads. We've talked about ChatGPT when it first came out, and so on and so forth. So feel free to check out the different webinar series if you're the first time joining us, or if you've been to other ones, you kind of know what's in store for you today. And then lastly, we have our academy, which we just recently finished our first cohort, where we help different students get their fundamental understanding of how to run growth marketing and run quick experiments. And we help at the same time different startups that were within our program. So thanks for joining us today. So for the agenda of today, we will be covering email best practices. We have the webinar in different sections, and so we'll initially go through that. Then we will transition and talk about common deliverability challenges and solutions. So this is for the ones who are just getting started on email or who have smaller lists, as well as for people who have larger lists. And how do you ensure that your email is not only getting delivered, but it's making it into the inbox? From that, we will transition and do a live demo. In the live demo, we will create a GPT. So for those of you who have been using ChatGPT, as you are aware, OpenAI has recently introduced GPTs, which are pre-trained models that can be fine-tuned. We will show you one that we have built internally, and we will also showcase how you would go about building it and talking about the different elements that could help you with content generation. And on top of that, we will then transition and kind of also show you what the technology is capable of doing and how you can take it to the next level. And then lastly, we'll talk about the role of AI and how this is changing the game for email, and it's already began, and where the future holds with all the different new technologies that are coming out. And we'll leave a few minutes for Q&As. So let's get started. So first and foremost, email marketing in numbers for us to get a good sense of how large email really is, right? So email is currently generating roughly around $7.5 billion in revenue in 2020, and it's estimated to reach close to $17.9 billion. So yeah, it's an incredible channel that generates an incredible return on ad spend. So a return on spend. So for every dollar that you spend on email, you're able to generate $36, the 36x. 99% of email users check their inbox every day, with some checking 20 times a day. So it's as you can see, it's a very sticky channel for you, and people are actively, constantly checking it. And then in addition to that, it's heavily on mobile, 41%, but desktop's not too far behind at 39%. So, and there's roughly around 4 billion daily email users. That's half of the world's population, right? So there's 8 billion people in the world, 4 billion of them are active email users. And this number is expected to reach 4.6 billion by 2025. Pretty significant numbers here. This graph shows the revenue growth. As you can see, it's projected to grow and continue to grow to reaching that 17.9 billion, as I mentioned a little earlier. This number is an interesting chart to pay attention to as well. This kind of shows how many seconds people spend on email. So on any email that they open, historically, and it continues to do so, it's roughly around 10 seconds. So you have 10 seconds to capture their attention, to get the information you need to get across, and for them to be able to do the action you desire. So it's important to have a very clear call to action, right? And we'll get into some of these best practices, but this is a stat to remember on users' attention span when they're opening emails. Lastly, this is a number of emails that change by day. This is substantial. So if you look at this is daily, literally daily, the number of emails that are being sent out, right? So we're talking about, what is this, 330 or so billion emails are going to go out. It's massive. So why is this? Why am I showing you all these numbers? Because if you take an average, people are getting close to 80 emails per day. That's your competition when you're sending emails. There's 80 other emails that are ending up in the inbox, right? So there's 347 daily sends occurring. There's roughly 4.37 billion email active users, and gets us roughly to around 79.5 on average emails that people are receiving per day. So keep that in mind as we go through all of these different things. So what do you need to do? So what do you need to do in order for you to be able to stand out and for you to be able to be one of those 80 email senders that they're receiving, that they actually pay attention to, that they open and that they read? All right. So what we've done is we've broken up the best practices, what we consider, in two different categories, and we'll go into some of these. Some are the ones that affect overall open rates, and then there's others that affect overall click-through rates. So in regards to open rates, what we really like to talk about is subject lines. That's probably the first and foremost thing, is for you to be paying attention to what type of subject line you're writing. The content itself, is it personalized? And we'll get a little bit more into this and discuss what we mean by personalization in a little bit. Responsive design, as we mentioned, there's mobile is pretty heavy. So you got to make sure your content is good on mobile and desktop. That's almost table stakes at this point. When are you sending the email? Are you sending it at the right time of the day? Even though the users check it 10 times a day, you want to make sure you're sending it at one of those 10 times that they're about to check it or have recently checked it, So you are going to be one of the first emails on the top that they will notice. Are you providing value consistently? Are you holding up to your end of the bargain on your email that when they provided their email to you, or are you giving them what they're seeking in the information? Are you consistent? Are you sending at a certain time? Or are you sending the same type of messages? Are you overall promising and holding up to your end bargain? So all of these become reasons that improve your overall open rate. The next is the click-through rates, is how are you segmenting your audience? How are you designing clear call to actions? And lastly, again, the responsive design makes it in here. But finally, last and foremost, is are you always testing and analyzing? This holds true across the board. So let's first talk about unique journeys for every subscriber. So this is kind of the foundation that is really, really critical for you to get email right, to ensure that you're getting high open rates and high click-through rates, right? So the first step is, where are you collecting your data from? So what do we mean by this? So users typically will provide data in the form of their email, but at the same time, they might be completing a form, they might be completing some sort of a lead magnet that you've created, but they're at the end of the day, they're providing the information and they're saying, yes, I'm interested to learn a little bit more about you. At the same time, they might be creating account information so that you'll learn a little bit more about them. You'll be able to gather characteristic info. In addition to that, depending on how you have your form set up, they could also opt in and tell you what type of information that they want to get from you. So these are user entered data of way of you collecting the email information that can help you later on. The next is behavioral data. So this is, once you know that this is the user and they've logged in and you have their email information, it'll be what pages are they visiting on your site is one example of user behavior data. Another is, what emails are they opening and what are they interacting with and what are they clicking? There's another way of collecting information. The last is, how are they interacting with your product, your service, or your app? Meaning, what pages are they visiting? Where are they going? What are they purchasing? And so on and so forth. All of these different user behavior data is important to be collecting, because these are the things that you're going to be able to use to further do the next step, which is start creating clusters. And what you really want to do here is you want to start clustering your different users into different groups. So you're able to have commonalities. So it can be things as the common characteristics that they have or the common behaviors that they have, because this will allow you to be able to create much more specific messages that are much more in tune for what they're interested in. This will also allow you to start creating relevant content. So you'll be able to see what type of content you should be creating, what type of information you should be providing that will ensure that they're getting value in on every one of the emails that you're sending. So this is here at the second area, which is audience clustering. The next area that we get into is about dynamic content updates. So what we mean here is, like, is your email timely? Is it relevant? Is it something that's interesting for them? Is it based off of something that they just did in the prior actions? Like, meaning that if you're in e-commerce, you added the products to the cart and you left and you got an abandoned cart email, or you were just recently reading a blog article and in it there was a lead magnet and you subscribed for it, you got the lead magnet right away. But they then right away, once you open that email, you got several other emails, or you fell into a sequence that continued the learning path for you. So these type of learning or timely actions encourage the person who you gave you the email, that you understand what they're looking for and you're personalizing overall the experience for them. These two boxes together, which is the clustering and the dynamic content, is what really makes email stand out. So it's the combination of these two things that you really start standing out and people start taking notice. So why is that important, right? So remember, I just recently shared that there is over 80 emails coming into any one given inbox, right? So if you don't stand out, you're going to be just lost in the mix, and most likely your email over time, or you might be flagged as spam, or it might not be open in your deliverabilities, and it'll start affecting a lot overall what you're doing. So it's really, really important to follow these different best practices to ensure that you have a consistent inbox deliverability and you're consistently making personalization and providing value for the email subscriber. The next thing we'll get into a little bit is once I share that the two areas is how AI is going to start helping you as an email marketer to start putting all of this into SuperDrive. So you'll have more superpowers, you'll be able to create content faster, you'll be able to send messages at a timely manner, and you'll know overall how to analyze larger email lists and start creating clusters and so on and so forth. And it's already starting to take place. So it's really exciting to see the world of email and where it's going to transform into. And then lastly, but not least, what I really want you to remember is rule number 10, which is to be able to analyze and really look at all your data and take it to the next step. And in order to do this, we're going to give you a quick case study. So Dell had come up with a new convertible Ultrabook laptop, and they really wanted to drive revenue, obviously, with this product. And how this product was, it was not only just a laptop, but it was also a tablet. So what they were doing is they were sending different emails out, and they were trying to A/B test the different emails and really understanding how they can increase the overall open rates, click-through rates, but more importantly, the conversions and the revenue generated. So as they did this, they kind of kept the emails the same, but the one thing that they changed was the GIF area. So they had one that it showed it as a tablet, and then they had another one that showed it like this, where it was more or less a tablet, and you can see it rotating, and it was also a PC. The one on the right blew away overall the overall open rates by 6%. They increased the click-through rates by close to 42%, and lastly, increased revenues by 109%. So yes, we are talking about all these best practices, but it's really, really important to remember the content itself is still critical in all of this. And for you to be constantly testing and for you to constantly be iterating and having different ways of trying to get the message across as quickly as possible. As I mentioned earlier, the attention span is for only 10 seconds on email. So if you're not able to quickly get the message across the board, you will fail and you will not get the desired results, or you will not get the desired click-through rates. So now that we've talked about email and the best practice, let's transition into deliverability as a whole and ensuring that your email continues to get delivered in an inbox over time, not just in the beginning, but over and over again. And what are some of the things that you need to do? So first and foremost, there was a report done by Constant Contact that kind of got into email deliverability, and they looked at over these are benchmarks. They looked at over 200 million emails that were sent out. And these are some of the interesting stats that came out. So on average, across all of the different types of email providers, 34.5% was the common open rate. So this is a general benchmark when the study was done. On top of that, the common click-through rate was roughly around 1.33%. And then the common conversion rate was 10.2%. So the desired goal of what you were trying to get on the 1.33 was roughly around 10.2%. So these are general benchmarks that was done in this study. This has held true, by the way, in a lot of different reports that are out there, but it varies obviously by industry and segment, but this is an aggregate number for you to kind of know overall. So now what increases your overall, let's say, email deliverability, right? What are the factors that kind of help you do this? First and foremost is your sender reputation. So ISPs in general, so Google, Microsoft, Yahoo, they all start putting together a score for you, right? So these are the different scores that you have as a sender, and these are available, by the way. Google uses a tool called Postmaster that you can easily use. And over time, this shows the type of engagement that your emails are getting on a consistent basis. And if your score is high, that means you're doing a great job. You're sending quality emails. You're not spending spam, and people are engaging, and people are not reporting you as a spamster. So it's really important to pay attention to this metric. So this is highly in tune for you as an email, what you're doing and providing. The next is authentication protocols. So there's 3 different ones that are critical that you always need to set up, regardless of what you do when you're first starting out. And one is SPF, the next one is DKIM, and then third one is DMARC. So what SPF is a sender policy framework. It basically is an email authentication protocol that allows you, that protects you so you don't get spammed, and there's no spoofing and there's no phishing occurring on your particular domain. You set it up very easily with a text record in your DNX. Actually, all 3 of these are done the same way, is in a text record that's particularly unique that ensures that you are protecting your overall email. The next is DKIM. It has the same. Now this is done at the domain level. So this also protects your email, protects you from spam, spoofing, and phishing. And the last is DMARC. And DMARC is more of a authentication standard that also sends you a report and shows you, as your emails have gone out, if they were authorized or not authorized, if they were using your domain name properly, and so on and so forth. All 3 of these are critical for you to have set up to ensure that your emails are not getting hacked. You are the actual sender that is sending this information out, and it's a signal that it allows for the ISPs to ensure that your email gets into the inbox. Okay. The last is the content itself. So one report showed that most people, 69% of people, mark an email as spam based purely on the subject line. So it's really, really important for you to have clear, personalized subject lines. Your content itself is not triggering anything that would potentially put it in promotions or potentially put it in spam itself. So what have you written? What is the text to image ratio? Is there any words that could potentially be triggering it as spam? So there's different tools, and we will get into all of these, that will test this for you, that ensures your content is safe, that doesn't cause any issues, that it will actually make it into the inbox. So again, what do you kind of need to do, and what are some of the solutions, right? So if you're starting to get a lot of unsubscribes, or if you're starting to get a lot of spam complaints, you need to really start paying attention to what are you doing, right? Have you been testing your emails prior to you sending it out? Are you personalizing this information? Does the email itself have any particular issues that are increasing the overall unsubscribe rate? Should you be sending to emails that are cold, meaning that you haven't been talking to in a long time, or you've just personally purchased, that you need to start warming them back up? Or you should also give them opportunities to be able to customize their preferences. So this could allow to overall lower your overall spam complaints. The next is bounce management. So if you're getting a lot of bounces, partly what this happens in the beginning is that when an email is subscribed, they might have the wrong email address. Instead of .com, they put .con by accident, or they spelled it incorrectly. So there's different tools that can check this for you and validate and cleanse your email for you before it even goes into the inbox. And then on top of that, if you're noticing a lot of bounces itself, some of your email service providers for themselves will start quarantining these emails for you, so you can manually review it, clean it up, and make sure that it's fixed and corrected, and then you can begin sending emails to those people again. The last is blacklists. So if you're notoriously bad and you're continuously doing the wrong things, you might end up on a blacklist. So it's important to check these blacklists quite often. There's tools that will report back to you that will show you where these blacklists are, and they will give you steps you need to take in order to be potentially removed off of these blacklists. So as we were talking about different tools, here is the whole email world and marketing map landscape, right? So in the acquisition, the way to look at this is there's 10 different disciplines within the email world. There's acquisition, there's ESPs, these are your senders, there's customer analytics, these help you analyze and figure out your clusters and segments and behaviors. These are the validations. This is where like you could either check and make sure the emails are correct. This is the deliverability. These are the tools that you can send your email to, and it can potentially review your content and give you what are wrong, what's not wrong with it. This is MTAs. This is an infrastructure layer. You'll probably not be dealing with this unless you're actually setting up your own email server. These are different agencies, obviously, that can help. There's a recommendation remarketing tools. This allows you to do kind of some of the AI personalization. There's real time, which allows you to use your email data to potentially go and use it in marketing or other tools themselves. And then there's other emerging tools also coming out as well. So this whole world of email, there's different tools that are being generated and that can help across all of these different tasks that we've been talking about. So lastly, to some best practices for continuing to maintain high deliverability is like, are the users opting in and subscribing? Are you consistently maintaining your list and cleaning it up? I know I spoke a little bit about some of these things. And also, are you avoiding spam traps? And what do I mean by spam traps is, is your content itself great? Are you not putting anything in the subject line that might trigger it? Are the images themselves, is there too many images? Is it too heavy? Is it too bloated? Are you doing things that potentially could cause this? Are you not paying attention to your overall ISP score and Google Postmasters, and you're sending too much? Are you not obliging and honoring when people are kind of asking you to be removed, or if they're not opening your emails on a consistent basis, are you stop sending to them? And these different things are ways to constantly avoid the spam trap. Lastly, it's very important to continue always to be analyzing your data and your metrics to ensure that you're getting proper deliverability, right? So constantly looking at your open rates, constantly looking at your click-through rates, and making sure that there's no major issues going on there. If you see it starting to fall below the benchmarks that we shared earlier, or within your own internal benchmarks as you send more often, what do you need to do? Do you need to cluster and segment more? Do you need to make sure that the content is going only to the right people to improve your overall open rates and so on and so forth, right? So like, you should not be sending one massive email to everybody. As your email grows larger and larger, it's really important to go back to what we talked about earlier, which is the clusterization and really digging deep and really focusing on providing content that's relevant to those people. And on top of that, if you start seeing an increased in bounce rate, you really need to start digging deeper into overall how you're collecting the email information. Why is this occurring? And then cleansing and making sure that the emails themselves, as they're coming into your platform, are accurate and correct. And then also fixing if there's an error or something that's causing the emails to come in incorrectly. So now let's take a few seconds to take another poll. Question one is, are you currently utilizing AI in your email marketing strategies? As you guys are completing this poll, I'm going to get the demo ready. The next question is, what aspects of AI-powered email campaigns are most interested in you learning about? And then lastly, have you built a custom GPT? Okay. Perfect. We see the poll results now. All right. So 91% of you are not using AI in your email marketing strategies. Okay, so I'll make sure I go slow in the process of showing this and some of the benefits and kind of explain exactly how it does it. What aspect? Okay, so 74% of you are interested in content optimization. Perfect. This is exactly what this demo is about. So I will show you how you can create unique content, or at least particularly your newsletter in this demo. And I'll walk you through that process, building a custom GPT and how it can help speed up your content production. 65% of you are interested in personalization and analytics. I will show you how AI can be used for that at the end of the demo, which is fantastic. So I'll kind of walk you through what the future holds, or what the technology is completely capable of, and how it can get you there with not that much effort and work, actually. So we can talk about personalization and analytics and what the latest technologies released, how they're enabling this to happen relatively quickly. And then in regards to GPTs, it looks like only 4% of you have built a custom GPT so far. So I will be going very slowly for the remaining of the 96% that have not gone through it, but providing exactly what makes it a custom GPT and kind of highlighting that as well too. So before I get into that, let's first talk about OpenAI and GPTs in general. So a GPT for a lot of you that apparently haven't built one yet, or want to kind of give you a little background on what it is OpenAI started releasing, and GPTs in just general are just a way of creating different models, right? And these models are built on consuming a vast amount of data. And we're talking about tons. Think about all the books, think about all the websites, think about all the content in general. So this could be from written form, from video form, from image form. These models consume all of this data and they start quickly trying to learn and understand relationally what these are. And this becomes a vast knowledge base that's very general. So it's able to answer tons of questions very quickly, and it's able to do it now in multimodal, which would be either in a written form or voice form or even image form. So it quickly allows you to be able to communicate and gather information. But unfortunately, these models do have limitations and they don't know specific information. And this specificity might be related to your own specific website, or it might be related to your own company's policies and procedures, but also more related to your own users and their behaviors and what do they do. So because of this limitation, even though this technology is super powerful for general inquiries, it has a limitation on current news or current information that is slowly starting to evolve, that you're able to overcome it by being able to go search the web. Or more importantly, what was recently released is for you, and this process was done before, but it was a little bit more challenging, but they've made it much easier for you to be able to fine tune and create your own model. And that is what we're going to be doing today, is we're going to take an existing model that exists and we're going to fine tune it with information that we're going to provide it. And it's going to be able to answer questions specific to our website. And from that, we could eventually take it to answering questions that are not only specific to our website, but questions specific to our website and our users. Okay. So what are some of the things that GPTs are terrific for? They allow you to create a bunch of different subject lines very quickly. They allow you to create very personalized content. All of these two things are obviously very important for you to be able to increase your open rates. They allow you to tailor your messages, because within the content, if you're able to gather information of the user, you can utilize that to tailor make it, or you can gather information about your website, you can use that to tailor make it. They're very efficient. They're very, very quick. So they allow you to come up with more ideas quickly, so you can improve your overall A/B testing. You can analyze the results with it. They allow you to come up with different types of campaigns that you might not have thought about. So you can come up with a newsletter really quickly, sequencing a sequence really quickly, and so on and so forth. And more importantly, they can be fine-tuned now with your brand voice, so they can have consistent messaging across what your brand voice is and how you want to be stand out, and it wouldn't vary from one email content writer writing it from versus another one, or as you kind of think through the different strategy, you can make consistency in your brand voice. So let's get started on creating your own GPT now. So this is ChatGPT interface. You have to be on the paid account. So let's first start there. Once you're in the paid account, you're able to start creating your own GPT. So the way you do that is you would go to Explore. Once you go to Explore, the first step you're going to do is click on Create a GPT. In it, before I get started, as you can see, this is a blank slate. Nothing's been created so far. I'm going to show you, as it's getting created, what it does and how it updates itself. So it's going to build its own GPT if you go through the create function up here by answering the questions down here. And then in addition, if you don't want to do that, you can jump to this area, which, as you can see right now, it's totally blank. Okay. And as we do that, it's going to start filling the information in. So what I want to do is I want to create a an email assistant that will use the content created on Azarian Growth Agency.com, which is our website, which has content as webinars, blogs, podcasts, and can easily create a newsletter that uses this information. The newsletter should be targeting high growth companies such as startups and speak. So we're just going to start here. So I put this prompt in. This prompt now begins triggering the updating GPT builder. And as you come in here, you'll see it's still blank, but as it's going through its process, it's actually going to start filling in some of this information for us. It's going to fill in a potential, it's going to suggest different names for it to be called. It's going to provide descriptions. These two are okay, but these are not the most critical parts of this. What's really important is the instructions that you're going to be sharing. Of course, it's not a good demo until something breaks. We'll let it start doing it again. The instructions are where it's going to be following the rules for how you want it to be fine-tuned. As you saw, it started now coming in. So as you can see here in the instruction, it's right now it's a basic instruction that's written. I'll show you the more advanced version of these instructions in a little bit, as I'll show you the ones that we fully built out. But it's saying that the GPT, and you can see it in a larger form here, is the GPT is designed as an email assistant in creating newsletter for high growth companies, particular startups. It utilizes content from Azarian Growth Agency, including webinars, blogs, and podcasts to craft engaging, informative newsletters. The focus is on leveraging existing content to create a newsletter that resonates with the target's audience, interests, and needs in the startup ecosystem. Okay, so this is so far written here. It doesn't know what this information is yet. So this instructions is giving it guidance to know what it needs to do first and what are the steps it needs to take. Where it will know the information is right here, is on the knowledge area. The knowledge area allows you to be able to upload different file types. File types can be anything as an Excel sheet, a PDF document, a CSV, an image, in addition to that. But what we've noticed, the most important one is a JSON file. And a JSON file is a file that allows you to quickly organize data in a simple format that can be easy for this algorithm or this model to quickly read and understand and parse and understand exactly what the content itself is. Okay, so this is what the upload files are. And then right down here, you'll see the capabilities. The capabilities themselves are the web browser, which allows it to use Bing to go search the web and find information if it needs it. The second is the DALL-E image generation, which is a secondary model that allows it to create images, and it will do that in a couple of seconds when I prompt it to. And the last is the code interpreter, which is on by default not clicked, but it's important for you to click on it because then that will allow it to be able to go inside and read whatever knowledge information you share. So now going back to create. So for this email, how is a startup newscraft? Does this name for you? So it's actually telling you that, are you okay with this name? Yes, the name is fine. Can you also create some actions and an image? So now I'm prompting it to finish what it hadn't done, which is the name here, the image here as the avatar. And then lastly, it had some starter things here as well. And so it should complete it out. Okay. So as it goes through this, instead of waiting for it, I'm going to show you a completed version. So what we did is we created this email wizard. Before we get into it, let me show you what a completed version of it looked like and how it's a little different. So as you can notice here, we've uploaded two files. One of them is a CSV spreadsheet that we gathered, and in it we have our blog article. And we'll share all of these files with you guys at the end of the webinar so you can see how it's structured and set up. We'll also share the instructions with you as well, so you can see how we've written it out. And I'm going to show it really quickly right now too. So these two files is how we organized our data that it's able to use it and utilize it. And then on top of that, we kind of made it a little bit easier for it to process the information. We basically wrote what its role is, what its goal is. In it, we started referencing specifically the files themselves and the file names and what the file includes, right? So we talk about the different information in the file, what's available in there, how it could be used and utilized. And then so this way it doesn't have to think or second guess or, have an incorrect conception. We clearly spelled out the different information in the file and how it could be utilized. We gave it the constraints, right? We said, hey, don't make this too generic and so on and so forth. We provided the guidelines, we clarified things, and we also even personalized it a little bit, okay? So there's different rules. You can do a ton of stuff here. Instructions, you can write up, you can continue writing and providing more specificity. The more you do, the much more custom and personalized it will continue to become. And we'll give you tips on this as well and what you can utilize post-webinar. So now we can utilize it. So the way you utilize it, you can do it in preview mode here, or you can come in here once you've created it and just simply click on one of the action items, which I did. So in this one, can you help me draft a newsletter with the latest blog post containing at least one article and podcast? So it's going to go inside of that knowledge base that I shared. It's going to go and start grabbing the information, right? It's going to follow the instructions that we have to make sure it's targeted to the audience that we need. And it's going to link to relevant articles that we have on our website. So all of this is being done in, instantaneously, as you can see. Like here is the podcast that we want, and here is an article. But as you notice, it didn't have a webinar. So if I wanted it to include a webinar, all I have to do is just take this prompt here, slightly revise it, and say at least one article, webinar, and podcast. And now we'll begin writing the next article. So in this particular one, it had just an article and a podcast. Now it's going through and start creating all three of them. Here's an article spotlight. Here's a webinar spotlight, which is the one you guys are at, which is the email marketing one. And then lastly, here is the podcast. So, and it's using all of the information on our site. And as you can quickly see, it's relevant links going to our website that you can easily kind of go to. So here is AI being used for content generation, but there's more, right? So this is general email. And now I'm gonna slowly talk about, and we're going to transition this demo into how do you actually get it even better? How do you go from a general email to very specific, personalized, that will know the user behavior? And that's done through the AI assistant that was also reduced, but that's a little bit more, that will allow a little bit more programming that you will need a developer's help and support in, but that's where the future will go, where you can actually take this information here and you can code. And with the code, you can go inside of your database, or you can go inside of your email service provider through their APIs, and you can actually read the information, analyze it, and say, hey, this occurred, so send it this type of email. And this is now feasible and doable. That's exactly what was released more than less than a week and a half ago. So all of these are relatively easy to get up and kickstarted and running. And for most of you who have dev resources, you can start talking about this and putting this on your product roadmap so you can start utilizing this technology to its fullest. So I hope you enjoy that. So now I know I'm getting excited about the AI assistant. So let me explain a little bit more what this AI assistant is, right? So we talked about the GPT, how the GPT is a way of getting off and ground and creating fine-tuning, but there's limitations, right? So you saw it's great for creating content, but it's still general. And part of the overall improving open rates and click-through rates is to get much more personal and specific. So this is where the AI assistant steps in. And the AI assistant allows you to be able to do these different things here, okay? So how do we get to that? So an AI assistant is a programmatic way that can do far more than just the GPT you saw in there. So it's able to analyze the data because you're able to provide it a rich real-time data source. You're able to code, and you're able to say that, hey, look at the data from WordPress APIs per se, or look at the data within Klaviyo's APIs, or you within your own internal databases, and you can go in and it can go into those databases and you can give it similar instructions that you saw. So write simple script. So you're no longer coding, you're writing literally a script like you saw there and in the instructions area of the GPT. And you're saying that when you're inside of this data, this is what this column means, and this is what this means. And the combinations of those that information allows you to be able to build the analysis engine that's needed to be able to do the next steps, which is the personalization. So the hard part is basically just connecting to the APIs. Everything else is similar to what you just saw in that demo, which is really just fine-tuning the instructions area. And with the combination of the two things, you're able to gather more real-time data. So versus you having to upload, let's say, a JSON file or a CSV file or a PDF, all you're doing is now this programmatically, it's doing everything for you. Okay, so that's the main big difference. And it's able to consume a lot more data because of it. So what does that allow you to do? It allows you to do really clear segmentation, right? So you're able to cluster and you're able to find, based off of the best practices we shared earlier, different users based off of how they're interacting with your website, what their content they're consuming, how they're opening it, how they're clicking it, and so on and so forth. So like this process of clusterization almost becomes real time based off of how you query it or write the instructions, right? It becomes a lot easier. So you no longer have to like go into your data, analyze it, and find the patterns yourself. You can start putting different assumptions or hypotheses that you have and see if it could start creating different segments for you and content based off of that, which becomes the personalization element of it now. If you teach it your data, if you teach it the content that you want to have on your newsletter, it's able to use that and start creating this unique email that's very relevant for the behavior of the user or the characteristics of your user, and it's able to connect the two. It allows for automation. So because it's now in code, you can literally start scheduling it and saying that, hey, I want this to run every Thursday at a certain time for it to craft the email, look at the review, create this campaign, and have it ready for me to be able to send out. So this is where it's kind of headed towards. And then obviously the analytics becomes a lot easier as well too, because it's able to do analysis that you probably didn't even think about or dream about. Like, hey, I want to know the overlap of this users and this users, and with those two overlaps, create me some content that might be relevant for them too. So these type of, it's as simple literally as that in the instruction area for you to be able to write it and for it to be able to take it to the next level. Okay, so this is where the AI assistant is headed. It's going to overall improve you to benefits. As you can see, there's tons, right? So it's efficiency, the personalization, the targeting, the data-driven analysis, and overall just your general campaign performance. So we've kind of talked about it, and we've gone through all of the benefits of the AI assistants. I wanted to kind of really now go into some of the platforms that are out there already that are starting to use AI. So you don't necessarily have to build all of these different things, right? But these are some of the things that are coming out there. They're allowing for content generation. They're allowing for predictive analytics. They're allowing for automation segmentation, dynamic content optimization, and behavioral triggers. So all of these different platforms are using that technology that we just talked about or starting to embrace it. Prior to this being released, they had to actually build it in a much more robust way. But as soon as this AI assistant got released, and now it's allowing them to be able to take advantage of what OpenAI just released on their dev day, you should start seeing more of these come to market a lot quicker. So it's very important to know what the capabilities of the technology is and how you could fully utilize it. So on top of that, you can do like the personalization we talked about. This should overall increase your engagement rates. It should make you less independent as a marketer, and you should be able to do more tests. You can improve the overall customer experience, and overall you can optimize the conversion. So all of these are going to be the benefits of using AI to be able to generate these customized and personalized experiences. So I'm going to stop there. I know I've been talking for a long to leave room for Q&A. So let me see what questions have come up. Okay, so one question was, what about email warmups? Is it okay to use automated tools? So email warmups are very important when it's a brand new domain. And yes, you should start very slowly and kind of building it up. And there's different guidelines out there. The best one that we've seen is from SendGrid. So if you're going to go out and kind of research this guidelines, just Google SendGrid warm-up sequence, and it can walk you through overall how many you should be sending at what given period. And then as you're doing that, you should be very carefully monitoring your open rates and making sure that you're not getting triggered for spam and so on and so forth. So next question. Felicia is requesting for the slides. Yes, of course, Felicia will provide the slides. We're going to provide the slides for everyone here, also a copy of the video recording. So how do you avoid email going to advertising and promotion folder instead of inbox when sending email? So the great question. That's all related to the content itself. So what the content itself, if it feels sales or promotion in it, and it's not a general update, it will cause it to end up going into the promotions tab. So if you have so it's the keywords that you're using within the content itself. It's the amount of images that you're using. What is the information and the actual email body that will eventually trigger this. So that's one reason. The other way you can avoid it in general is if you can, in the beginning of your email sending sequences, is if you can get the user to add you as a trusted sender or as a contact sender. So whenever a user signs up, if you can get them to add your email as a safe list, it will also ensure that your email ends up in the inbox. So that's like a little bonus thing. And it's also their engagement. So meaning that if the user is if it ends up going in promotions, but the user goes in there and starts opening your email and clicking on it, over time, Google gets smarter and realizes that, hey, maybe this should end up in the inbox. So then it starts more for that particular user, at least, ends up in the inbox versus ending up in promotions. But great question. What other question? Which do you find a record or create that record? Where do you find that record, create that record? I have issues with a chart again. So if the question was, where do we create the record or create that record? I believe it's related to the SPF, the DNS, and the DKIM. All of those, or the DMARC, all of those are in your DNS record. So it's where you have your IP address pointed to your domain, and then that you need to do a text record. Okay. So we'll answer the remainder of the questions that I didn't get to on this in a follow-up email. We promise to get to all of them. I know that I want to be cognizant of people's time. So the next thing or next steps for you guys is we want to, as you leave this webinar, please, like always, we will have a survey for you to complete. And in doing so, we will be providing a bunch of content for you guys. Some of these are blog articles that goes a little bit deeper into what I just introduced today. So these blog articles are written to help explain some of the things that we went over in the webinar. Obviously, there's a limited time, so there's only so much we can do in a 1-hour session, but these will help you understand what we actually showcased and talked about, and we'll go deeper. Some of these are also PDFs themselves that you can use as a checklist to have handy for you as easy as you're kind of thinking through your email strategies and you're thinking about what are things you should be testing and going through. So we have a wealth of knowledge that we're obviously giving away to you guys for participating today and helping us answer the survey at the end of this so we can continue improving these webinars. So the next thing we have is the next webinar we will be having will be in February. So Happy New Year's to everyone. To see you next time around. It'll be February 1st from 11 to 12. Here we will be talking about SEO. It's from all of the guys, all of the ladies and men that have been attending so far our webinars. This has been a hot topic that's been highly requested. So we will now be talking about SEO. We will talk about how AI is affecting SEO. We did it in our last webinar where we talked about the generative search experience from Google and how it was affecting paid ads and It was an impressive how so many of you were excited about that and the questions and the comments that came after that. So we're now going to show you how that's also affecting SEO. So we're going to dig a little bit into this webinar and talk about how the generative search experience is going to change the world of SEO per se. And SEO changes all the time. So if you've been doing SEO as long as I've been doing, you realize that it's a constantly changing evolution. But this is really transformative. It's really exciting what's happening here. So really, really excited to be able to share this with you guys come February 1st. So if we are not connected on social, feel free to connect with me, LinkedIn or Twitter. I'm pretty active on both of those platforms. And then in addition to that, you can always reach out to us in either of those platforms or email us and go to Azarian Growth Agency, and we can definitely chat as well too. Thank you for coming today, and I hope you enjoyed the session, and thank you for spending the last hour with me. Have a great day.